Welcome to Copilot Podcasts. Two brothers, ages 15 and 17, breaking into an abandoned building on Brickyard Road. Silent alarm triggers. Police arrive. Both arrested for third-degree burglary. But here's the thing, this wasn't their rock bottom. It was just another Tuesday in the chaotic brotherhood of Brad and Stephen. Today, we're diving into one of the wildest sibling timelines you'll ever hear, from innocent wrestling matches to criminal charges, and somehow, against all odds, a relationship that survived it all. By the end of this episode, you'll understand how shared trauma can either destroy families or forge unbreakable bonds. So let's start with the basics. Who are Brad and Stephen, and how did two kids end up with such an insane story?
Brad was born in 1996, Stephen in 1998, just 2 years apart, which is actually the perfect gap for maximum sibling chaos. And their story starts pretty normally, believe it or not. They're wrestling around as little kids. Stephen face plants and messes up his front teeth. Classic brother stuff.
Right, but even the normal stuff had this edge to it. Like the cereal milk incident, Brad finishes his cereal, realizes he didn't leave enough milk for Stephen, so he pours his used milk back into the gallon.
That's such a perfect example of kid logic. And you can see their personalities emerging. Brad's the older brother trying to fix his mistakes, even if it's gross. But then you have these moments that hint at the chaos coming. Like their mom giving both kids Stephen's Adderall before wrestling tournaments.
Wait, she was giving Brad his younger brother's ADHD medication? That's not normal parenting.
Exactly. This was at Fort Benning. They were in the Black Knights Youth Wrestling Club, driving 3.5 hours to tournaments. And already you're seeing signs that the adults in their lives weren't making the best decisions.
The whole Pokemon figure Christmas thing really shows how normal their childhood started. Just two kids getting excited about toys before everything went sideways.
But even in those early years, there's this pattern of violence and chaos. Take the BB gun incident. Their dad tells them, if you put the BB gun right on your tongue when you pull the trigger, it doesn't hurt. Brad trusts him. Dad puts the gun in his mouth. Brad jumps at the last second and gets shot in his front tooth.
That's not a prank. That's child endangerment. What kind of father does that?
It shows you the environment these kids were growing up in. And it gets worse. There's this incident where they're waiting in the car for an hour while their parents donate plasma for money. These kids are learning that normal family activities involve desperation and poor judgment.
So when does everything really fall apart? Because there's clearly a turning point.
The big break happens when Brad's around 13, 14, Stephen's 11, 12. There's an affair, family splits up. And here's the moment that really gets me. Their dad climbs out the bedroom window onto the front porch overhang, jumps off the roof to fight the other man, and Brad and Stephen are watching from the window. Brad's crying.
They're literally watching their family explode from a window. That's traumatic.
And then they get split up. Stephen moves back with Dad after their mom bites Stephen's arm during a fight involving stacker pills and alcohol. Brad stays with Mom and Carl. So now these brothers who've been through everything together are separated.
But they don't stay separated, right? Because the teenage years seem to be when they really become partners in chaos.
Oh, absolutely. When they're back together, it's like they're making up for lost time. They're rolling cigarettes from butts around the house while their aunt and her boyfriend are smoking crack in the bathroom a few feet away.
The environment they're in is just completely toxic, and they're adapting to it together.
Right, and you see this escalation. They're stealing blunt roaches from neighbors' ashtrays, breaking into vehicles at a warehouse, smoking spice at the dinner table with family members. It's like their normal meter is completely broken.
The shared bedroom situation really captures how far things had fallen. Tell me about that.
This is 2013, 2014. Brad's 17, 18, Stephen's 15, 16. They're living in a shed in the backyard, plywood floors, metal walls, no insulation. They run extension cords from the house for power. Brad's on one side with a futon, Stephen's on the other with his mattress. Both have PS2s.
They're basically homeless but together and somehow making it work.
And they're still being brothers. Stephen's playing Naruto, Brad's playing Gun. They're freezing out there watching Shin-Chan before school. It's this weird mix of survival and sibling bonding.
But the criminal activity is escalating too. There's the axe flamethrower incident where Brad literally shoots fire into Stephen's face.
Yeah, they're messing around with Axe body spray and a lighter. Someone lights Stephen's pants on fire, and while Stephen's fighting that fire, Brad sprays him again and shoots a flamethrower into his face, sings his eyebrows. It's like they're trying to kill each other, but also having fun.
That invisible rope prank is such a classic teenage thing. Like every generation discovers that trick and thinks they invented it.
But even their pranks have this edge. Same night as the invisible rope, they're cutting through yards and encounter a man with a gun who tells them that's how you get yourself fucked up, partner. They're constantly pushing boundaries in dangerous situations.
And then we get to the arrest. October 2013. This feels like the culmination of everything.
They're walking around with an 18-year-old named Candace. They break into an abandoned building that later became the Chattahoochee Paddle Company. Silent alarm, police show up, all three arrested for third-degree burglary.
So at 15 and 17, they both have criminal records. That's a pretty serious escalation.
What's fascinating is how their criminal activities actually brought them closer together. Most siblings drift apart during family chaos, but Brad and Stephen became partners in crime, literally. Candace did jail time because she was 18, but Brad and Stephen had to pay fines and take classes together.
Their Aunt Angie paid the fines, right? So even their consequences were handled by the chaotic family system.
Exactly. And here's what's really interesting. After all this chaos, Brad moves to Arizona, has a kid, and in March 2015, the whole family comes to visit. 13 people, including Mom, Carl, Stephen, and all the other kids. It's described as a cool experience despite the chaos.
So even after everything, they're still trying to be a family. That's kind of beautiful in a twisted way.
And fast forward to 2026, Stephen's 28, living with Mom and Carl in Texas, working at Hey-B. And here's the key thing. He's still in contact with Brad. In fact, he's one of the only family members Brad still talks to.
After all that trauma, all that chaos, all those terrible decisions, they maintain their relationship.
The fact that they're still talking today after all this chaos suggests that shared trauma can actually strengthen sibling bonds when you survive it together. They went through hell side by side, and that created an unbreakable connection.
It makes you think about resilience differently. Like, what doesn't kill you doesn't always make you stronger, but sometimes it makes you closer.
Right, and there's something about being the only other person who really understands what you went through. When you're watching your dad jump off a roof to fight someone, when you're living in a shed together, when you're getting arrested together, that creates a bond that's hard to break.
The research on sibling relationships shows that they're often our longest-lasting relationships, outliving even our connections with parents. But this takes that to an extreme level.
Absolutely. And what's remarkable is that despite all the dysfunction, you can see moments of genuine care throughout their story. Brad trying to save milk for Stephen, even if he does it wrong. Both of them saying goodbye to their injured turtle together. These small acts of brotherhood in the middle of chaos.
The turtle story really gets me. They find this creek to either let it live or die peacefully. They're saying their goodbyes, and then they hear their mum screaming for them. It's like this moment of childhood innocence interrupted by family dysfunction.
And that pattern repeats throughout their story. Moments of normal sibling bonding interrupted by adult chaos. Playing video games in the shed while freezing. Throwing football over power lines. Building terrible scooter ramps together.
So what does their story tell us about family resilience? About what kids can survive?
I think it shows that kids are incredibly adaptable, but also that having someone to adapt with makes all the difference. Brad and Stephen didn't just survive their childhood, they survived it together. And that shared survival created a bond that's lasted into adulthood.
It also shows how quickly things can escalate when there's no stable adult supervision, from wrestling accidents to criminal charges in just a few years.
But here's what's hopeful. Stephen's working at H-E-B now, Brad's in